to our LiT Summer Special, the special summer podcast for the Lost in Theater podcasts. We talk about classic movies in the summertime. We have 2 podcasts a week. One talks about movies that sleep through cracks of pop cultures. Those come out on Fridays on podcast platforms. But this special video podcast talks about classic films. This week, we'll be talking about The Matrix.
Are we ever going to watch any black and white ones? Like, real classic films?
Like Casablanca?
I don't know what I'm talking about.
The problem is, additionally to being classic films, we talk about films that I haven't seen yet.
That's a new addition to the specifications.
It's sort of one of the things that I've been thinking, like continuing the conversation. Because I haven't seen the films, so, it adds to my reaction to them and my thoughts about them. Although we should probably talk about films that we love anyways. I was thinking about...
As per usual, though, in this episode, I have not seen the movie.
Sister. That's okay. Did you know The Matrix was rated R?
Did you know this episode is about The Matrix?
I just said that. It's, I don't know why. I don't think the language was very strong. The gore, there was some very intense, gun scenes. This is a full spoiler review. We just keep forgetting stuff. Anyways.
So many disclaimers!
There were a lot of very heavy, gun scenes, but there wasn't a ton of blood. There were some, the general,
death is traumatizing.
The themes of it are as traumatic as Inception, I would like to add, which we did a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So, I don't know, if they're going purely on, this could trip you out, and you could be really weirded out and concerned, that I feel like the Matrix has a similar effect. Because it's about not dreams. Well, it is about dreams. It's about, you know the brain in the vat theory, we could just be brains in vats. It's about that. So, Phil and Ruth, miniature plot squish moment. There's a guy living his normal life, having a normal day. He's like a computer guy. And he's looking for something. He's really smart, so he knows about this thing called the Matrix, and he wants to know what it is. And then, these people find him. They are people. I don't know why I did that. But these people find him, and they're like, we're going to tell you what the Matrix is. And they give him a choice. Either take the red pill or the blue pill. The red pill. Blue pill, you go back to normal life. The red pill, you find out what the Matrix is. He takes the red pill, finds out that robots have taken over the Earth in 21 something or other. And,
this year?
No, this is not 21 something other. It's 2021. Oh. Yeah. It's different.
We got 100 more years.
Yeah. So, the robots have taken over, and what they're doing is they're using human beings to power themselves. So they keep all humans in these little container things.
Huh.
And they're like human batteries.
Huh.
And because of that, then they put a thing in their head that makes them think they're living a life. So the movie, then they have to they think that the main character, the guy who from the beginning, his name's Neo, but it isn't actually Neo. Well, it is actually Neo. He claims he affirms that his name is Neo, but his name in the Matrix is Thomas Anderson, and that just cracks me up.
Why?
I don't know. It just makes me chuckle that his name is Thomas Anderson, but he calls himself Neo, and Neo's a great name. But Thomas Anderson there's no Neo in Thomas Anderson.
Correct.
I find them very unconnected. But that's okay. Just that disjoint. I find that disjointing curious. Even in vibe, sometimes. Anyways. So, what happens? The rest of the movie? Oh, yeah. The robots, they're trying to... They get trapped in the Matrix, and the people who find Neo claim that he's this chosen one. there's a prophet who says that there's going to be a chosen one. They say he's the chosen one and he's going to be able to defeat the Matrix, and then they have like a showdown that involves one of their members being kidnapped, and he has to like prove that, and he does, and he goes, and then there's a crucial moment, and turns out he is the chosen one, and it's amazing, and he has these special ninja skills, and because he can see the Matrix in a whole new way. The sound is representative of like his arm going like, because you see multiple arms.
Is Neo a robot?
No, he's not.
How does he know?
Okay, that's the thing. That's one of the things, is they could still be in the Matrix.
Uh-huh.
I have to see their other movies. There's 2 more, and there's a 4th one coming out.
Someone is screaming in the background.
I want to see these movies. I enjoyed it. It was interesting.
I think you're gonna be disappointed.
However, I understand at the end, during our commentary, not our commentary, but our comments on Inception, I was like, I feel like Christopher Nolan just wanted people to stop freaking out about whether or not they were in a dream and just live their lives. This is
not that.
This is not that. This is like the opposite.
Okay.
They're like, freak out till you find the truth, man. Because otherwise you're living a lie. It's very interesting because it's 2 sides of that coin. In this movie, they were like, you feel like they talk to Neo and he's like, you've always felt like something was wrong with the world that you're living. And that's because you're not living in the real world. And then it's like this big revelation that he was living in like a computer program. Notably, this came out in 1999. This was very cutting edge. There were lots of ones and zeros, and the animation is very 1999, like peak 1999. And it really affects the style of the film in a big way. I feel like you've seen commercials and you've seen clips of it, right? And it's funny because do you like the style of it, like CGI that you see in the movie, that you see in the commercials and stuff?
I've never really thought about liking CGI before.
What?
On principle, I don't really like CGI, actually, now that I think about that.
Okay. Well,
I mean, it's neat.
In this film, it really contributes to the feel of the film in a style way. Like the very nature of the story you're telling is very connected to how it visually appears.
Yeah.
And what I find so interesting is that they're making a Matrix 4 at the moment. And here's the thing, Ruth.
I should say I enjoy CGI a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to do CGI stuff. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really cool process. But when I actually watch movies, I think I don't like it. At least today.
That's good. So CGI's had leaps and bounds since 1999, and because of that, there's this sort of like, it has to look realistic. That's the goal often, or I just think in order for the Matrix 4 to feel like a continuation of these movies,
it won't.
They're gonna have to dumb down the CGI, or like participate in the style of 1999 CGI, which I'm kind of excited for, because I do feel like there are people who can do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of Into the Spider-Verse, where it looks like comics come to life. Yeah. And it's so good. And you know some very inspired person did this, and you're so proud of them. I was so proud of them. And I think there are people who can do this with Matrix 4. I just wonder if they're gonna do that, or if they're gonna, like, just decide that it's 2021 and we're gonna do whatever we want visually. So that'll be interesting. Additionally, the music, most of the film had normal music for like an action movie, but the beginning had sort of like old-timey superhero music.
Yeah.
Which I was fascinated by. I could not figure out why this was the case. It was so interesting because it fit the feel, but then I was like, but I'm watching The Matrix. What does that mean?
It means they were still developing motifs.
Yeah.
The
Maybe.
music culture of the West was still in development in
1999?
movie media. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
alright. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was still solidifying.
Well, the,
So, it has to do with how sounds culturally convey ideas now.
Okay.
So, like, superhero theme conveys this sort of feeling and
Okay.
concepts embedded in it
Mhm.
that help develop the feel of the whole movie.
Yeah.
YouTuber Sideways
Oh.
actually talks about this. Check him out, he's cool. Lots
Alright.
of long music rants.
Lovely. The actors in this movie, you've got Elrond, whose real name I do not know, but he also plays the Red Skull. Keanu Reeves, who for some reason I do remember the name of.
It's a little unusual.
In this movie, and actually, we talked briefly about this movie, and you were like, I'm not sure about how I feel about the acting. At the time, you weren't sure how you felt about the acting. And it's interesting. Oh, I said that again.
Interesting's okay.
Well, at the end, it's the really classic scenes from these movies feature agents who look like Men in Black. I would like to add, they look very much like the Men in Black.
Yeah.
Here come the Men in Black.
Focus.
Okay. And they're very stoic, and the acting, because of that, it's kind of as though they're trying to pretend to be stoic, and it's kind of comical in that way. But if you're willing to submit to the comedy, if you're willing to submit to it, you're willing to just go for it. It felt, when you're watching the movie, it was suddenly, in these moments, my brain was like, this is cool. I was like, I want a black, long trench coat, and I want to slick my hair back, and I was like, and I want to have fake machine guns and cool glasses, and I want to strut through hotel lobbies. No, not with machine guns. You're correct. That's a bad idea. But I want to strut through hotel lobbies with glasses and long trench coats, and suddenly I wanted to go to Comic-Con looking like that.
Ooh.
It was like I did not think that would be the effect, but that was the effect. I was like, this is great. This is great. And what I find interesting again is that
interesting's okay.
Okay.
Still.
At the end, Neo, when he becomes aware of the Matrix, he gets very stoic again. Kind of all the time, because he can see the Matrix, and he can, I am the cool man.
So he's not okay.
I'm curious what they'll do with that in the other ones, whether they'll address that or whether he'll just continue to be that way. But until that point, he's a totally normal dude. And so he acts like a totally normal person.
Huh.
Which means that his acting style is very, he actually does something I've never seen, not that I've never seen, that I wish I saw more in movies. He decides not to take risks.
Huh.
Early on in the film.
Yeah.
He's given this choice, Neo is, they say, go out on the ledge and go climb the building to get the helicopter, and he goes out to the ledge, and he drops the phone or something, and he's like, no. And he goes back inside, and he gets arrested.
Wow.
By the people, the Matrix robots. And I just don't know if I've ever seen a character just decide not to take the risk.
Yeah.
And just go inside and get arrested and go to prison in that just very real, like, he had another option. You could have been the hero. And he just was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And then there's another scene where the interrogation, oh my goodness. You know what? Maybe that's why it's rated R. The interrogation scene is, they say, he says, I have my rights. I know I can get a phone call. And he says, okay, but they have the conversation, and he's like, you can't do it if you can't talk. And you think, what? And he says, you can't speak, and he can't speak, and his mouth, like, closes up and becomes one mouth.
Why don't they just tell him he can't have a phone call?
Because they're scaring him. It's a terror tactic, because they're robots. They're in the Matrix.
This is dumb.
No, it isn't. But then they put a weird robot parasite into his belly button.
Uh-huh.
That was kind of weird.
Uh-huh.
And then later it has to get sucked out, which I would like to add is not a problem. I was surprised at what wasn't a problem in this movie. As in, he gets this like tracking thing put inside of him, and immediately in the next scene he meets the people he's supposed to meet, and they just take it out of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's nice. Way to go, guys. That was very... No, you thought it was going to be a conflict, and then it just wasn't. It's like, okay, that's chill. So they just take it out of him with this, like, suction-y thing. And then they give him the option again to stay or leave. And he almost decides to leave. He opens the car and goes, and it's this the person's like, no, please, stay. There's a thing we need you to do. They have to appeal to him, but he was just gonna go. They're like, in that alleyway, you know what happened. I don't quite remember the alleyway. I don't know what they were talking about. But he's like, you know what will happen if you go down that alleyway. And in my brain, I just was like,
I don't know what will happen if I go down that alleyway.
Yeah, I thought he was perfectly kind of justified to kind of just get out of the car and go.
Really?
Yeah, he could have. That was a real option, getting out of the car. And he decides not to get out of the car eventually, like in that moment. But he did decide to leave the car before they made that final appeal. In a way that I think a lot of characters, they like waver on the edge, and then they don't actually make any sort of commitment.
Yeah.
And then they make the heroic decision right away, or they, it's all internal. But they show him, like, opening the door, about to go out.
Yeah.
And she has to be like, no, don't do that. I also love the fact that there is a prophet in this movie. She just knows things. And it's an odd combination of the scientific and the prophetic. A part of me wonders if it's just because the idea is she can read code in a big way and, like, predict code. That's why she can predict things inside the Matrix. But we don't know where the Chosen One mystery came from. She predicted there was going to be a Chosen One. Oh, no. Maybe it's because he's recycled person.
What?
So, part of the robot thing...
Humans are made of other humans.
Yeah, well, part of the robot thing is that they, like...
Sort of?
Melt.
That's not true.
They melt the bodies
Humans
down.
are made out of food.
They melt the bodies down and then feed them to the babies so that they feed. It's really horrific.
That might be the rated R bit.
Yeah.
That's technically the C word.
Oh, really?
C-A-N.
I know that word. We had a previous incident with this. It was in a different episode. It was a disaster. If you want to know, check out. I've forgotten the name of the film.
Mushrooms?
It was an awful movie.
It's not what you think it is.
Anyways, so that would make sense, I suppose. Yeah, it was pretty brutal that way, and I just didn't see that coming. I didn't know that was going to be in this movie in any way. The whole real world that was ruled by robots, and everybody's in capsules, and there's a resistance, and there's two parts of the resistance. There's like spaceships that wander around, and the one that Neo joins is on a spaceship called the Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Why? I don't know why it's called the Nebuchadnezzar. Because the actual city of people who have, like, maintained themselves it's called Zion, and that makes sense, because they're like, it's the place, the final city that, there's lots of biblical influences there. But Nebuchadnezzar, also biblically and historical person, doesn't really... If they called it, like, the Ark or something, that would have been too obvious, I guess.
Maybe they're saying that Zion isn't with Christianity.
Or the Hebrew people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sure. But I mean, I'm just kind of... I just think it's such an interesting...
Babylon is the way to go.
But they don't name it Babylon.
No.
They name it Zion.
That's part of the deception.
Oh my gosh. Also, this movie did feel like a computer nerd's comeback story. Like, you know, when they talk about how there were all these movies about jocks in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, and then the computer nerds were being like bullied, and then they came back in the production companies and made all these nerd comeback stories. This is definitely one of them. I can just tell. Yes. Also, this movie, last week we did Spirited Away, and we talked about how it felt like Alice in Wonderland. Well, this movie is explicitly connected to Alice in Wonderland. They just talk about it down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And they talk about how Neo keeps expecting to wake up. And it's interesting
Interesting is okay.
It's just such a bland word.
We'll have a counter.
Okay. You live in doubt of whether the Matrix, whether you're just dreaming, right? Like, what is the possibility that you wake up and it turns out that you're not dreaming this whole time? And you were in a capsule this whole time, you know, this kind of wild perception.
Really wild.
You were born in a prison for your mind, this sort of idea. And this movie doesn't talk about love except at the end. And so there's this sort of on-again, not this on-again, off-again. There's this character who, you know, she likes Neo.
Yeah.
The movie does a good job of just sort of, you know, making it obvious but not making it overpowering.
Yeah.
And not making it her, like, quality. Yeah, she's cool. She's got lots of other things, and you can tell that she likes Neo, and that's great. And there's a prophecy about her falling in love with the chosen person, and at the end, Neo gets shot a bunch of times in the Matrix, and so he's dying outside of the Matrix. It's like they're connected, and he does die. And she says, you know,
spoilers.
I was supposed to. You can't die because I was supposed to fall in love with the chosen one, and so I know that you're not dead, because the chosen one's also prophesied to save everybody from the Matrix. So she kisses him, and then he like wakes up, and that's when he has the revelation about the nature of the Matrix. Now, part of being in the Matrix means... wait for it. Okay, part of being in the Matrix means that you actually aren't bound by the laws that you think you're bound by. There are rules, but you're actually in a computer program. So you can do crazy things, like run on walls and run really fast and wild ninja tricks. And you can actually you can learn things outside in your brain and then apply them in the Matrix. And part of Neo's training is he has a talk with, we haven't even talked about this guy, but there's the guy who believes Neo is the chosen one, and he's training him, and it's a whole thing. And he says, he says, oh, what's his name? Oh, it's Morpheus, that's his name. And, Morpheus says...
Really? His name is Morpheus? Like, morph?
Yeah.
Changeable.
I know.
Changing what?
I don't know.
Don't trust him.
Okay. Morpheus says, your problem is that you are still thinking, you're still using the rules that you think exist. You haven't submitted to because your body and brain just doesn't. Your body and brain, your instincts say, your body, don't do that thing. And that's part of why, you know, the idea is that you can actually, if you've submitted to the idea that you're not in the Matrix enough, you can, if you really believe that you're in a Matrix and not in reality, you can, like, stop bullets, you can do anything. And so at the end, that's what he does. It's like he's suddenly convicted of the fact that he's in the Matrix, and he stops bullets, does his ninja thing.
Is that classic scene where it's kind of like slow-mo, he goes under stuff?
I think that's in a later movie.
Okay.
Because I was sort of waiting for that.
Oh.
He does have, there is a scene where he does go under the bullets, but he gets hit by them. He still does it. The lady is like, wow, I've never seen anyone do that, but it's not the same, the classic one.
Cool.
So, the thing is, the role of the love at the end, where she's like, you're the person I love, and it's this thing, it causes him to have a conviction about what's fake and what's real.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was a very interesting way to use romance.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
It was like, because the whole time, that's what I was just saying, he was in doubt. He was worried about, well, what if I wake up and it's a different thing? What if I wake up and it's a different thing?
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, he was like, no, this is the real one, and I know it because of this love that's here. And then, because of that, he's free in the Matrix to do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
I just really thought that was great. I loved it. What do you think? Wow. Really? Thoughts, questions, comments?
Well, I zoned out slightly at the end there. It happened so fast.
Okay, well, what do you remember?
You asked the question.
Ruth.
Yes, Rachel.
Okay, what do you think of love being the thing that makes you know what's real and what's not real?
Oh, I like that. That's consistent with how loving people actually does work, usually. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot that way. There's also, I did enjoy this film a lot. I enjoyed the fact that their car had doors that opened like this.
Uh-huh.
And Morpheus has these glasses that are reflective, and they're used fantastically throughout the film to, like, reflect. Like, he has the blue pill that's reflected in one, and the red pill is reflected in the other. I don't know if that's how that works, but that's okay.
Are the car doors, are the car doors like the Mr. Incredible ones when he gets the new car?
I don't know.
It kind of, like, lifts up.
But do they both do it in the same direction or in opposite directions?
I don't know.
Because the ones in the Matrix go like this. They both, like,
Yeah.
the back one's back open and the front one's front open. It's just fascinating.
I have no idea what that means.
There's this guy who betrays them in the movie.
Betrayal!
And one of the reasons he does this is because he thinks the life outside of the Matrix is miserable, and he'd rather live in the Matrix thinking that it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that is such a fascinating idea that, he has the Christopher Nolan, what I was suggesting about the Inception,
Mm-hmm.
that there's just this willingness to live not knowing that you're confused and not fighting and living a miserable life, but so I'm not even sure though if I agree with that idea though, because I find the Matrix more compelling to me about knowing the truth and deciding to go for it. Yeah, I don't know. Additionally, there's this fascinating way in which the prophecies don't seem to be fulfilled.
Really?
Yeah. She doesn't tell them everything.
Huh.
Well, the line is, there's a difference between knowing a path and walking a path, and she tells them what they need to know.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they don't have to walk the path. So she says that either Morpheus is gonna die or Neo's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
And Neo dies to save Morpheus, but then he comes back, you know? And he couldn't have known that. And it's curious because we do live in this, you do have to end up walking the path. As Dad always says with sports, you do have to actually play the game to see who's gonna win the game. Someone else could win.
I've never heard him say that.
Well, I speak about sports sometimes with my dad.
Okay.
Yeah. I will say my one critique is the end scene. Because he's gotten these powers, it's super cool, they're gonna win, it's gonna be awesome, the next movie's gonna be how they do this probably. And he goes in, and the whole time they're using phone calls, there's like phone booths and these amazing cell phones from 1999, which I need more of, because they got these little things that go it's great. And Neo goes to a phone, because that's how they communicate in the Matrix, and he calls on the phone and he says, he doesn't say because he knows what he's gonna say. But I say
Okay.
Hang on. What does he say? He's like, these people are living in a cage, and I'm gonna show these people a world without boundaries. And then he like flies away. And I was confused. Because the real world that they live in
has boundaries.
Yeah, you can't suddenly use your kung fu skills.
So does he just want to keep living in the Matrix, but knowing that it's the Matrix?
No, I don't think so.
Huh.
It was very confusing to me, the end, because of this sort of willingness. It was kind of odd. Also, and this is a weird note to end on, because I think we're almost done, but they use EMPs to stop the robots.
Really?
In the real world.
Okay.
I am so pleased by this. I've said it for years, folks. EMPs. When people talk about how our world, lots of our world takes place on the internet, and, interactions, emails, communication, internet. All it takes is one EMP, and that just communication route is wiped out.
Or just a bad fire.
And I just think, this is the warning we need.
Wait.
Know that the EMPs...
Warning for who?
I don't know.
Are we warning the robots?
No, for us. The power of EMPs is paramount, and we should remember it. Yeah.
Remember the EMPs.
Okay. Yeah. So that was nice. I was glad that they used the EMPs to stop. There was a moment of tension where they thought, are we going to have to use the EMP while he's still in the Matrix, which is powered by electricity, and that would, cut him off and we'd never see him again? But he gets out and it's fine.
Okay.
It's good.
So a bunch of other people are dead?
No, because it's a regional. It's not,
Oh.
Yeah, they weren't near the Matrix itself, because they don't want to kill everybody.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah. It's a little awkward because they do kill people in the Matrix, which would kill them outside of the Matrix. But the thing is, the robots can take over bodies in the Matrix. They can, co-op systems. So they could be anybody at any time.
Okay.
It's a little uncomfortable, though. Yeah.
Huh.
It's a wonderfully trippy film, and I will watch more. I would watch a second one of these. And I was going to say before I watch a second one of the Inception, except Inception doesn't need a second one. Inception closes.
Yeah, Inception's good.
We just closed that book, and they were like, we're done with that conversation.
If it wiggled.
It did wiggle. We're clear. No, I think a lot of the message of Inception was, because his wife thinks, back to the Inception comment, his wife thinks that they're in a dream, and so she kills herself. And I don't think they're arguing that that's the case. Whereas, in the Matrix, if you think you're living in the Matrix, you take risks in a weird way. Again, though, the flaw of both these movies is that I think it encourages people to jump off too many roofs in either case.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers would be very unhappy about that.
Just a house.
He was upset about Superman.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Because of the kids?
Because no one told the children that this is pretend.
Oh my goodness.
There were actually a lot of children who were jumping off of things and really damaging
themselves.
No! Yeah. He was very angry.
Oh!
That's what prompted him to keep making the show.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Wow. It's okay to tell stories if people know
if you know if
it's a story.
Yeah, that there's other things being illustrated here.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's what I would say is a huge thing with these, is that people could think that they live in the Matrix and then do something dumb.
Yeah.
And dangerous. Which makes I don't know. It's curious. It's a fascinating dilemma to me.
Please don't jump off buildings.
Or just your one-story house roof. Don't do that either.
That's a building.
I know. Yes. Okay, closing thoughts on The Matrix, Ruth?
On The Matrix?
The story, the characters.
General apologies to our audience for my generally somnambulant state.
Oh, sister.
I liked your retelling.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm glad. I feel like I missed things, which is unfortunate.
That's okay.
Okay.
We don't need to do that this episode.
Like I said, though, I think that this use of love, I want to look for more times in which this kind of love is used.
Yeah.
Yeah. To
Alrighty.
show things that are real. Okay. Well, folks, thanks so much for watching. Oh, we forgot about our song. What song should we do? Do 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 do. Goodbye, everybody.